And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth. And what a great day it is, the day right before our great national holiday of Thanksgiving. But is this Thanksgiving different from all other Thanksgivings? It is, apparently. There are major sources in the media that are saying you shouldn't go to Thanksgiving meal today. Why not? Because you may end up sitting at the same table with Trumpers. People who voted for Donald J. Trump to be president of the United States. Is that a good reason to boycott Thanksgiving dinner? 1-800-955-1776 is our phone number. And even if you don't go to Thanksgiving dinner, you may want to go out to the movies. Well, some people do. And there is a big new Disney film, Moana, opening up today. Plus a political thriller that's coming in the weekend, and plus a movie about old Hollywood starring Warren Beatty and Martin Sheen and Alec Baldwin and a whole bunch of other people. We will review them coming up later on the Michael Medved Show. We'll also be talking to someone, my friend Ben Shapiro, who has recently survived some encounters with the looniest of the loony left at college campuses across the country. What is it exactly? And maybe Ben, as somebody who has been out there in the trenches, what is it that the left thinks they are actually achieving by the ongoing demonstrations and extremism and weirdness concerning the forthcoming new administration? Plus, of course, we'll talk about the two new announcements that have been made today, with other announcements pending of choices for the Trump cabinet. Both choices that were announced today: Nikki Haley as UN ambassador, yay! Betsy DeVos as Secretary of Education, double yay! These are strong conservative voices. They are strong conservative female leaders. Neither one of them people who were Trump true believers or loyalists or people who supported Mr. Trump early in his campaign. Betsy DeVos supported Jeb Bush. She supported Marco Rubio. She supports, most importantly of all, choice in education. And what a switch it will be to have someone at the education department, as long as it continues to exist, who actually believes in the idea that parents and students can make the best choices about where they actually go to school. There have been a series of articles all over about the horrors of Thanksgiving and how this Thanksgiving is going to be just incredibly difficult for so many people. The Los Angeles Times ran a series of helpful suggestions. Now, do you think they are going to be genuinely helpful? One of the suggestions is arrive late to Thanksgiving meal this time. Because if somebody brings up politics and says anything positive about President-elect Trump, then if you arrive late, you'll be able to drive away without somebody having blocked your car. Right? Is this the kind of helpful suggestion we need? There's also a very strong idea that this Thanksgiving could be so filled with pain and tension and difficulty that you're better off not going to a Thanksgiving meal at all. For instance, there was a caller who called into a local broadcast here. This is Savage Love. And Dan Savage is a well-known gay activist and gay rights activist, he would say. And he is also writes a sex advice column. And he gives people advice on political and social issues, like how to handle the trauma of Thanksgiving. Here is the caller, and then wait till you hear the host's advice.
To be honest, I don't know if I can be around them, and I would like to enjoy my holiday. I'd also like to take the higher ground, and want to say that I can rise above this, and I can take a moral high ground, and I can still be civil. But, in this sort of state of shock, I don't know that I could be. So if you have any suggestions for those of us out there who are looking to the holidays that are not that far away and sort of how to cope or what to do with those who are in our life are clearly in support of the right and Trump.
Okay, what to do? Dan Savage provides his distinctive answer.
You can be civil next Christmas. One of the things I think all of us who are still reeling and will continue to reel up until January 20th, when we have to watch, if we choose to watch, this monster garbage mountain get sworn into office. In the wake of this, as we brace ourselves for this calamity to unfold, we must engage in acts of self-care, as they say. And your act of self-care this Christmas season is not going home, not making nice with the family. By next Christmas, we will be reaping what these sowed. We will be seeing the disastrous outcomes. We will have a year of scandal, of Florida sinking under the waves and hopefully taking Marco Rubio with it. And God knows what else tumbling out of the Trump closet.
So we have a lot to look forward to. And happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you too, Dan Savage. You know what? Is it not appropriate as we come up to this Thanksgiving holiday, this great festival of appreciation and gratitude, which is supposed to be positive, for even people who are heartbroken, and I know they're out there. If you're heartbroken about this election campaign, wouldn't it be a useful exercise to just try to remind yourself about all of the things for which we all should be grateful? Because they truly do go beyond politics. One of the suggestions that the Los Angeles Times was making was, aside from avoiding Thanksgiving meals, is that, well, you could try to enforce a strong ban on any political conversation. And if someone brings up politics, just leave the table. I mean, really? Have we gotten to this level where our politics is so bitter and divided that we can't just talk about things? I mean, if you're going to give advice for people on Thanksgiving, and yeah, we're having a bunch of people over, and no, people do not see the election identically. I mean, I'm in kind of a unique position because, as everybody in the whole world knows, I was not pro-Trump. I did not support Mr. Trump for president of the United States. I didn't think a Trump presidency was a good idea. But since the election, as a patriot and as an America lover, I want Mr. Trump to do remarkably well. And I think he's kind of given indications that he's moving in the right direction. His interview yesterday with the New York Times, which has been released to the public, should be very reassuring to everybody. And Mr. Trump is trying to bring the country together. He gives evidence that if there's somebody at his Thanksgiving table with whom he disagrees, he'll be able to talk to them. Why should it be so difficult for liberals? Look, and I understand people who were for Trump all the way are angry at me because I wasn't before. People who are anti-Trump all the way right now are angry at me because I'm applauding most of what Mr. Trump is doing, because I think he's doing the right thing, and because I'm hopeful that things will work out. But it seems to me that the best idea for Thanksgiving is not just for people to go to our website at michaelmedved.com and buy your very own copy of The American Miracle, my new book, but the very best idea is to embrace the theme of that book, which is that God does have a plan for this country. What happened in the election, as much as you may hate it or dislike it or fear it or be upset by it, clearly is part of whatever plan. You can call it fate, you can call it providence, you can call it, like Hegel did, the will of history. There is a plan out there. This is part of it. And the assumption has always been from Americans that this plan has significance and it will work to America's benefit. In my book, I quote Bismarck. Bismarck once said that God has special providence for imbeciles, drunkards, lost dogs, and the United States of America. And Bismarck, very clever guy, the Iron Chancellor, Chancellor of Germany, I do think he was right. Wouldn't it be possible to turn any political disagreements back to that idea? that we're trying to figure out what is in the plan for America? What's in the plan on the Medved Show is we will take your calls about your own strategies for coping with Thanksgiving table stress. Coming up.
Medved Show. All across America. This is the Michael Medved Show.
It is 21 minutes after the hour on the Michael Medved Show, broadcasting to you the day before Thanksgiving and the week before our great big live book signing for The American Miracle, my brand new book. We will be signing it live and be available for your questions directly live online, and it's free. So put it down. We'll be working at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time, a week from now, Wednesday, the 30th of November, just in time for the book's formal release, which is November 29th. This is a book that tells the story, initially, of the Pilgrims, very appropriate for Thanksgiving discussion, and about how there are elements of their story that they understood could not be explained simply as a series of random happy coincidences that indicated that there was some kind of scheme, plan, destiny with which they were involved. What about the destiny for this Thanksgiving? The front page of the Seattle Times, headline, "The Political Wall at Our Holiday Tables." Some Seattleites are just refusing to share a meal with those who voted differently in the presidential election. Others will gather and hope for peace. And there's an illustration here showing a huge wall, I guess like that big, beautiful, impenetrable wall that'll be rising on the border with Mexico that is built in the middle of a dinner table. And they say, as the effects of Trump's victory ripple across the country, people throughout Washington state say their personal relationships are in the line of fire, splitting along the country's political divide. Over the past weekend, the Seattle Times fielded responses from families, couples, and friends who feel torn about the real estate mogul's presidential victory, some of whom are concerned about potentially volatile holiday gatherings. What do you think is going to happen? What will you allow happen? And then they publish suggestions that they borrowed from the L.A. Times, Los Angeles Times, tips for navigating the holiday. Number one, decide as a group to set aside political discussions at the dinner table. It's impossible to even talk about politics at the dinner table. That's kind of the big elephant in the room. What, are you going to talk about how Obama just pardoned the two turkeys this time who were called Tip and Top or something this year? This is always one of the greatest and most solemn responsibilities that any president handles, is pardoning the Thanksgiving turkeys. Number two, advice. Give yourself permission to miss the annual gathering if you feel confrontation is imminent. So just say, no, I don't want to go over to your house for Thanksgiving. Oh, that'll go well. People remember that. Number three, this is the one I love, which is just, it's so obnoxious. It says, have an escape plan if you go. For instance, arrive a little late so no one's blocking your vehicle. And then it says, come prepared with some interesting non-political talking points to divert conversations. How about those Seahawks, huh? They're doing great. Well, that can get you into, some conversations anyway. I mean, it might be that there's a Dallas Cowboys fan at the table. Or even worse, a 49ers fan, though not many of those. Thank you, Colin Kaepernick. Let's go to your calls to John in Cleveland. You're on the Michael Medved Show. Hey, John, how about those Browns?
Hey, it's going to be a 0-16 parade.
It could be. They have a chance of winning a game before the end of the season. It's not likely, but they could.
You know, and lightning strikes twice in the same place. You know. Hey, good afternoon. Happy Thanksgiving and God Yule to you and your family.
Thank you.
It's good hearing you. I don't see how it's so remarkable to you that, or unbelievable to you, that people are boycotting our Turkey Day dinners with their family due to the presence of the Trumpettes and their family. I've actually disinvited or uninvited 2 family members from my table because I know that they voted for Trump, and I simply can't sit down and break bread and give thanks next to people who punched down next to a racist and somebody who chided and made mockery and fun of a handicapped person, bragged about sexually assaulting women, and then was proven that he had done so by women he had done it with. I mean, it's just amazing that you find it amazing that I would uninvite those people.
I'll tell you why. Are these people that you had problems with before Trump? No, they're people you got along with.
Yeah, no, I'm not a Hillary supporter. Let me press
right. I understand. That. Me neither. So, but I understand what you're saying, and believe me, I share. Believe me, I share some of your reservations about the president-elect. But don't you feel, John? And this is part of what I would urge you to do is focus on the positive, because that's really been the American tradition.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, but I focus on the here's part of what I want to talk to you. Focus on the positive. It was more than a year ago that Mr. Trump made fun of Serge Kovaleski, the handicapped reporter. Let that go. Let it go. Forget about it. Focus on the fact that he's about to appoint Mitt Romney as Secretary of State, that he's just appointed Betsy DeVos as Education Secretary, that he had a great meeting. The reporters say he was great and he was charming and he was listening and he was persuasive. He was really good yesterday with the New York Times. Why not focus on the positive?
Mr. Medved, I respectfully disagree with any of those people doing anything positive for my America, right? And as an independent voter, Hillary would have destroyed my America. Trump's going to destroy my America. So appointing those people are not positive things to me.
Okay,
right?
You know what? A little bit later in this broadcast, I'm going to be talking about election bets. Mr. Trump is not going to destroy your America. He's not going to destroy my America. And certainly not the other people that you're mentioning. I don't know if Betsy DeVos, the new education secretary, would be an example. She has devoted her life to philanthropy. She is from a wealthy background, the Prince family. Her brother, as a matter of fact, Eric Prince, is a guy who started Blackwater. And her husband is an heir to the Amway fortune. She has a lot of money. She's used that money to provide underprivileged, challenged circumstance students with the ability to pursue a better education. She has fought her whole life for choice in education. Are you a supporter of choice in education?
Well, let me ask, do you know her standing on Common Core?
Yeah, I think she's been extremely skeptical about Common Core.
I'm not. I'm actually a proponent, and if you support military children, you'd be a proponent for Common Core. So.
Okay, but again, it's not one of her big issues, and the idea is being extremely skeptical about Common Core is, I think, going to be the direction. That's what Mr. Trump talked about. And if we phase back Common Core and leave it more to the decisions of individual school districts, it's not going to destroy your America. That's the basic point. Appreciate your call very much. We'll be right back. I do think that, look, there are a lot of families. I mean, the country is deeply divided, almost no matter where you live. I mean, even in the city of Seattle. I just looked at the numbers on the election. And in the city of Seattle, very liberal city, there were 8% of the people who voted for Donald Trump. Now, it's not... In Manhattan, where Mr. Trump lives, see, this is part of the problem we have in our country, is too many people live in bubbles. And you should consider yourself lucky if you have a Thanksgiving table, if you have a Thanksgiving get-together, we have people who don't have identical points of view. I mean, part of what makes a marriage is that the male and female are different. Husband and wife are different. Okay, you can say, well, he currently identifies as a male. But you know what? There are differences. And that's part of what makes things beautiful. Now, here's one possible suggestion for making things beautiful at your table. I think the LA Times suggestion that you ban any political conversation, that's against the First Amendment. No, I don't think it's not, because First Amendment says Congress shall make no law. What it is against is a long American tradition. Americans love talking about politics, and they love talking about religion, and they love talking about sports. And don't try to limit the subjects, but you can properly, I think, limit the way people talk about it. Here's a little trick that I would suggest. And I really do think we're going to try to have this going at our Thanksgiving table. We're going to have a total of 15 people at our table. And part of what I would urge you to do is do something that was very much in the spirit of the end of the second debate. Remember the last question? A member of the audience, it wasn't Ken Bone. It was the question after Ken Bone. Asked Hillary and Trump, okay, say something that you admire, something positive about your opponent. And they both spoke very well. You remember Trump said she doesn't quit. She goes out there, she works hard, she fights. Hillary said, I really admire and like his children. That was positive. So, again, if you are somebody who just loathes and hates and abominates Hillary Clinton, you can say, well, you know, she gave a pretty classy concession speech when she got around to it. I admire that. Or maybe you like her pantsuits. Okay, I'm trying to be imaginative here. Or if it's Mr. Trump, you can say, look, I think his appointment of Dennis Rodman as our new ambassador to North Korea was a masterstroke. That will allow us to avert any looming conflict with the North, and will be an answer to President Obama honoring with Presidential Medals of Freedom yesterday both Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Michael Jordan.